Alright, hey guys, welcome back to our channel. In today's video, a question being asked: what percentage of total price is required to have as a deposit for a house? So at the very bare minimum, from my personal experience, you should put at least 20 to 25% deposit minimum. The more percentage deposit that you have, the better it is for you in the long term. Purely because of this. Okay, imagine if you're putting only this bare minimum, you can actually get. I did have my investment property loan at roughly about 5% or so. At 5% down payment, that would mean 95% is actually borrowed from the bank. That is leveraging to as much as you can, in a sense. You can do that, but it will give you a lot of stress because the mortgage repayment is going to get a lot more higher. You also have lender's mortgage insurance inbuilt to the mortgage repayment, and that is adding towards your repayment, let's say, and that's going to get really costly, especially if you holding the mortgage for the whole entire 30 years. It would be a lot expensive, put it that way. Now, let's put it this way. You got to look at it as if you have, let's say, $10, and if you have, let's say, $10, and you've got 20% share of it is yours, technically 80% share of it is actually goes towards the bank. Now, if you're putting that as an investment property, it would also mean 80% of your income, rental income, it's actually going to go to the bank, and 20% of them goes to you. On top of that, you also still have to managing all of the expenses on the investment property, such as water, strata, council, and all of the fun stuff when it comes to owning an investment property or principal place of home as well. So if you're doing it as a principal place of home, for me, I try to pay it off as quickly as possible. So the bigger deposit, the lower the repayment's going to be. And if you can shorten the term and paying extra, then do that. That's what we did. So we try to pay it off as quickly as possible because I don't like debt. The fact that I'm actually paying interest instead of earning interest, it's not fun. So paying it off as quickly as possible is one of the best way that you can do. So to do that, to pay it off as quickly as possible, is obviously you gotta have a bigger amount of deposit. If it's not bigger amount of deposit, you also need to have I guess additional repayment or pay it off as the big lump sum as quickly as possible. So that's one way. Now, I know there's a lot of information out there where you guys go, oh, you could have actually, paying off property is not for everyone. Paying off a mortgage, it is not for everyone. It works for us. Okay, life is much simpler for us. I know there's a lot of, I guess, property guru out there that's thinking, hey man, you can actually take that money out, take out the equity, buy another property, or do leveraging it a little bit more. Why would you want to use your money? You can use other people's money, and all of this information is out there. I understand that, but that might work for them, but this works for us. Okay, it might not work for you, and for whatever circumstances will be. For me, it makes sense for us to just pay it off quickly as possible. It makes sense for us not having any debt, but that's just us. It might be a little bit weird, the fact that we don't like paying a mortgage, we don't like having a credit card debt, but life is a lot more simpler when we don't have any of this other commitment. You have the option to do other things. So as a house deposit, definitely minimum, even if it's investment property, 20%. If you can, do more. If you can, do 30, 40% or 50%. Because at a certain point, your mind's gonna go, why am I paying half of this to you? Especially on investment property anyway. That's what I found. What I found is like, well, I've got this income. Let's assume that your income, it's $1,000, let's say. Why is the bank grabbing 50% of that, or like say 80% of that? So that make it $800 of that goes to the mortgage repayment. and then you're left with 20%, which is $200. So why is the bank getting 80% of the income that I'm generating? Then you're thinking of, hang on a second, I still also have the administration to cover. Let's assume that's 10%. So let's say $100 of that goes to your administration costs. So that would mean I'm only earning $100 for that 10%, let's say, $100 in this instance, for my income from the $1,000 income. So for me, it's like, how about the other way around? Why don't you eliminate the debt, pay off the mortgage as quickly as possible, so you can get 90% of the profit, and then only have 10% is the expenses, which you cannot avoid. Running costs of property, you cannot avoid any of the expenses. You know, wear and tear is bound to happen. There's bound to be, electricity bill, council rate. Let's say if you're having an apartment, it will be, I guess, corporate strata fees and all that stuff that comes with it. So the more money you have, the more percentage you have, the easier it is for you and the more buffer you can have. So that's just coming from my own personal experience, where I did 5%, I did 10, I did 20, and I did pay off the whole entire lot. So I did all of those things. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents based on my own personal experience. If you like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and I will see you on the next video.